self, knowing yourself, understanding yourself, is that an intellectual kind of knowledge? It can be. You know what I'm saying? You look, I made a video called Anxiety and Fear, a personal story. And in that video I basically said, I talked about some things which happened to me in 2017, causing me to go to the doctor multiple times. And the doctor, this one lovely doctor, eventually told me that anxiety, at the time, my anxiety and my fear was caused by my thoughts. And I understood what she was saying at the time. I understood intellectually. It made sense. Ah, yes, I see what you're saying, doctor. It made sense intellectually at the time. Intellectual knowledge is always, again, it can be forgotten, it can fade, and it's always up for debate as well. I don't know if you see this. Intellectual knowledge, two different people can have intellectual knowledge, and it's always up for debate. It's always can be skepticism can always set in when it comes to intellectual knowledge. You can always be skeptical. Anyway, so I made that video called Anxiety and Fear, a personal story, where I talked about understanding something within myself, but it was an intellectual understanding, which to me, I've come to see is not a true... It's not a true understanding. You know what I'm saying? True understanding... True understanding of yourself comes as a byproduct of seeing. When I use the word seeing, I'm not talking about seeing in the sense of seeing yourself in the mirror. I'm not talking about a visual seeing. I'm talking about seeing yourself in the sense of seeing inwardly what goes on within yourself. Again, not turning your eyeballs inward so you can see. I'm talking about seeing yourself, being aware, or in other words, being aware of yourself in the sense of seeing how thought, or your thoughts, however you want to say it, seeing how thought arises, seeing how thought intercepts all your sensory perceptions as you go about your daily life. Seeing how your thoughts play many different roles within the mind. Emotion is the byproduct of thought. All our daily actions, reactions, are generally the byproduct of thought. To see all this, you know, I just made a video called, or a couple of videos back, I made a video called "Want to Get Personal?" ? You know, and in that video, ultimately, I was saying about sitting in a quiet room. Not meditation. Don't call it meditation. But if you sit in a silent room, you see. Not only do you see that there's silence around you, but there's thought that arises within your mind, and that prevents... Thought is the internal noise which prevents true silence. Anyway, I spoke about all that in the video, you know, and silence is helpful. If you've never been aware, if you've never seen for yourself, seen inwardly, if you've never seen all the movement of thought which happens inwardly, if you've never seen that for yourself, Of course, putting yourself in a completely silent environment is helpful in that sense, because when your external environment is silent, any movement naturally seems that much louder, especially the movement of thought. So, look, if you really see for yourself how thought operates, all the roles which thought plays, this is true understanding of yourself. This is not an intellectual understanding of yourself. This is true understanding of yourself, to be able to see inwardly all that goes on, thought, emotion, how it all arises. And this creates, in all my videos I say, if you see, you might see, you might not. See for yourself. I say all this stuff in my videos, you know what I'm saying? And when I say you, if you see, I'm talking about you being your brain, because you are your brain. I've said this in the past. You are your brain. Your brain is the sensory organ inside your skull which perceives. Not only does it perceive all that can be seen, can be perceived physically, sound, touch, smell, sight, but the brain is able to perceive all of its own movements, the movement of thought, which is fascinating. So again, not only can the brain perceive all that goes on outside of the body, sensory perceptions, the brain can perceive its own movements. So if you see, that's why I always say, you might see, you might not, because if you see for yourself how thought operates, that creates a change in you, meaning your brain. It's almost like, obviously I'm governed by words here, but it's almost like the brain becomes naturally attentive. When you really see the whole operation of thought, how thought operates, it's like the brain naturally becomes attentive. Attentive to what is, as I've expressed it in other videos. What is meaning, obviously, all that goes on around you physically, what can be perceived, sensory perceptions, but attentive to all the movement of thought, the rising of emotions within the body. Are you paying attention? The whole abbreviation of my channel, APA. Are you paying attention? If all my videos, if anybody watches my videos, I don't know, if that question really grips you, ironically, paradoxically, naturally, you, meaning your brain, just becomes attentive, pays attention, in other words. I don't know if anybody understands this. If you seeing the whole movement of thought doesn't take time. Seeing is instant. Being aware, in other words, of all that goes on within the mind is instant. The seeing is instant, but it might be worthwhile to take the time to see. If that makes sense. All the best. Take care.